The West Ham Massive are pleased to support Iron Supporting Food Banks. They are a group of West Ham fans and friends inspired by the work of other football food banks around the country. They collect food and cash donations for a Newham food bank in Beckton, who supply sub-distribution centres in the borough 7 days a week and hand out several hundred 3-day emergency food packs every month to families in need. They are also working with other groups to improve conditions for vulnerable adults and children in the Newham community. You can help by making a donation to their Just Giving page. You will find the link to this in the description section of the video details in this stream. Thanks for your support. Come on, you Irons.
And a very good morning to you all. Welcome once again to the West Ham Massive. And as I always ask you guys to do, please don't forget to like, comment on and share this stream to your social media platforms. Subscribe to our YouTube channel if you haven't done so already. Hit the bell icon and don't forget to click all and you'll get alerts on new content as and when we upload it to the channel. As always, ladies and gentlemen, we thank you very much indeed for your support in this matter. I'd also appreciate your consideration for that on the banner. I might swear, so if that sort of conduct is something you find offensive, then stop watching now, but don't forget to drop a like on the stream and subscribe before you bugger off. Okay, that's that bit out of the way. Right, Premier League, match day 13 of 38. It's incredible, isn't it? When you stop and think about it, we've now completed basically a third of the Premier League season. Really is just mind-boggling how quick the time goes. Burnley 1, West Ham United 2 at Turf Moor yesterday. So just keep an eye out for the ticker at the bottom. It will intermittently change with little facts and figures and all the rest of it like that. The officials yesterday, press it again, didn't work the first time. They're the officials. And as I say, if you keep an eye on that, there will be a few little bits and pieces that will pop up. Got this as well. I did a little bit with the last preview that the review that we did for the Nottingham Forest game. I did something similar to this. I've kind of jigged it around a bit. Some of it was out of necessity. For some reason, the Premier League website is arsing around, and there were certain slides that I couldn't pilfer off of there. But there you go. That basically is what we had yesterday. So we went to Turf Moor in front of 21,319. It's not the biggest stadium in the world, Turf Moor, but a proper old school stadium from a bygone era. And we won it 2-1. It was 2 late goals right at the end. We'll go through the bits and pieces, but that's basically what unfolded yesterday. So just to sort of go through it, if we just sort of like go next slide, please. As remember that when we had COVID and you had the old next slide, please. Thoughts on both of the starting 11s? Well, as far as we were concerned, to be honest, it wasn't a million miles away from what I thought it was going to be. I said that Areola would start. That was the back four that I more or less thought was going to start. The one surprise there was Naya Faguer. I thought that probably he shouldn't have played, but was I shocked to see him there? Not really. James Ward-Prowse and Edson Alvarez as the 2 defensive midfielders. Thomas Souček just behind Danny Ings. Danny Ings is the one that I think most people looked at and went, oh no, why is he not going with Mabama? Well, we'll talk about him later, but Danny Ings was the striker. You had Paquetá and Kudus either side of Thomas Souček. As for the Burnley team, I'll be honest with you, a lot of them I don't really know so much. Probably the only ones that I had any real in-depth knowledge about were Charlie Taylor, who obviously I said was going to be the key man, the key battle between him and Kudus, but more of that later. The other ones that I had a bit of knowledge about was Josh Brownhill. He was obviously with them in the Premier League last time, same as Charlie Taylor. Sander Berge, who was a player that when we bought Thomas Soucek. It was a toss-up between whether we were going to get Sander Burge or whether we were going to get Thomas Soucek, if you remember. And we ended up getting Thomas Soucek because Burge went to Sheffield United. He's now at Burnley. Obviously, Jay Rodriguez, can't even say my words. Jay Rodriguez has been round the block, so I know him. He obviously got the goal for Burnley, and Goodmanson on the right wing. But other than that, a lot of them I don't really know. I know the names, like James Trafford. I'm aware that he's a youth grade England goalkeeper, so I'm aware of him, but I don't know too much about him. He's had a bit of a tough start to life as a Premier League goalkeeper. And I've got to be honest, the rest of them, to be honest, didn't mean an awful lot to me as far as their names were concerned. So that was my thoughts on the starting 11. Now, I'll obviously go through some little sort of stats and all that, which you'll see intermittently changing, as well as obviously the little factoids at the bottom. But that was, as far as we was concerned, it was pretty much what I thought. Now, I have put a little link in the chat for you guys that are watching this. If you want to watch the highlights that are on Sky Sports website, you're more than welcome. As far as the first half was concerned, I mean, probably the only thing that I really remember was of anything noteworthy, which probably goes to tell you what sort of game it was, especially if you're a West Ham fan. Wasn't particularly the best. Probably the only memorable thing as a West Ham sort of like fan was concerned was a save that Areola had to make from a strike from a young fella, Koleosho. Now, I'll be honest, I'm not really aware of the kid, but I've done a little bit of genning up since, and yeah, he's got an interesting little backstory. He's part Nigerian, part Italian, part Canadian, whatever. I think there's 4 international teams that he could play for from memory. Little bit of a mix, and he looked lively, to be honest, yesterday. He was probably the player that I believe was the standout player from the opposition. Just a little spoiler. But he got a shot away on minute 28. Areola had to sort of be alert, makes the save on minute 28. Other than that, I mean, to be honest with you, I don't know about you. I mean, there was also a penalty shout involving Koleosho with Vladimir Kufal. And it's one of those, for me, it wasn't a penalty, and obviously the referee agreed. So nothing really to sort of speak of there, but we'll obviously get on to what happened in the second half with a penalty call involving the same player, interestingly enough. But I mean, my thoughts on the first half performance, it wasn't really much to write home about, if I'm being brutally honest. It was a bit sort of it was a bit of a sort of like a stalemate, if I'm being honest, which I'm not being funny, and I'm not trying to be sort of disrespectful to Burnley, but they were the team at the bottom of the Premier League, and they're there for a reason. They've not scored enough. They've conceded too many. And we got to half time at 0-0. And I think that, for us to be able to say that, and again, I'm not trying to be disparaging to Burnley or anything like that, but I think that's really quite depressing. I think that's really quite sort of, really something we shouldn't sort of hold our heads up high about. Do you know what I mean? But we get to the sort of like the break at 0-0. Now, I obviously said in the match preview, and I sort of said about, we'll probably concede a goal fairly early on in the second half, because that's normally what happens. Well, what do you know? 2 minutes into the second half, what do we get? We get a penalty awarded. Again, it's that man, Koleosho. I say man, he's only about 20, 21, something like that. He's only a youngster. So Koleosho, he's, as it says there, he's adjudged to have been fouled by Kudus. The decision was looked at by VAR, and it was upheld. Now, for me, I'll be honest, I don't think that's a penalty in a million years. I really don't. I mean, did he get a touch? Possibly, but is it enough of a contact? I know people turn around and say, oh, well, he was moving at pace, he was moving at speed. It doesn't take that much when you're sort of moving at pace to sort of knock you off your stride. Bollocks, I'm sorry. That wasn't a penalty. It just wasn't, I'm not saying there wasn't a contact there, but not every contact is a foul. Not every, it doesn't always have to be sort of like the referee blows up and points to the spot. But as I say, the VAR, obviously, they've looked at it and they've gone, there wasn't enough there. Morning, Rani. Hope you're well, mate. There wasn't enough there to overturn the referee's on-field decision, rightly or wrongly. So the penalty's sort of like, ball's picked up by Jay Rodriguez. He steps up on the 49th minute after it's all sort of said and done. He puts it straight down the middle. Areola dives to his left. He didn't really, look, a goalkeeper's not expected to save a penalty. So it's one of those, he's dived. I think he probably dived a little bit early, but it's always a battle of wits, isn't it? It's sort of like, who blinks first at a penalty. And obviously, if the penalty, the old trick I was always taught, with anyone that wanted to take penalties, was that sort of like the trick is you need to look at the feet of the goalkeeper, try and hold your nerve and look at the feet of the goalkeeper, because that will tell you where they're going. If the goalkeeper's feet moves to the goalkeeper's right, then they're going to dive to the left. And if you stop and think about it, your feet have to move that way for you to dive to the left. Your feet will move to the right. So essentially, what I was always taught, sort of like as taking penalties, is that you want to try and sort of like go the way that the goalkeeper's feet are going, if that makes sense. So if the goalkeeper's feet are going to the right, he's going to dive to the left. You want to put it to the right. Makes sense. Anyway, so he sort of like, he's obviously made his move. Rodriguez has gone, thank you very much. He's just slammed it straight down the middle. And we're 1-0 down. And as I say, it wasn't really a shock to me, because I said in the preview, I said, we'll probably concede a goal fairly early in the second half. And we did just that with the penalty. The next notable thing that happened was, again, Areola comes to the rescue in the 57th minute with a save from Amdouni. He was another player that I thought looked quite lively and effervescent. Youthful exuberance. Are you listening, David Moyes? Youthful exuberance, a little bit of sort of, buzzing around and energy and all the rest of it. Are you listening, David Moyes? He probably doesn't watch this, so I really don't give a shit. But there you go. So 57th minute, Areola makes another save. I mean, we could have been, let's be honest, on another day, we could have been 3-0 down by this point. Areola's already made 2 really good saves, as well as the goal. So we could have been 3-0 down at this point, and that would have been absolutely catastrophic for me. I mean, for us to have gone to Burnley and been 3-0 down and come back to London with absolutely fuck all to show for it, except a beating. No, I'm sorry. That's just not. That would have been absolute. But do you know what? I'll tell you what, David Moyes must be the luckiest fucking Premier League manager walking the face of this earth right now. I'll tell you that. I mean, we've managed to sort of get 1-0 down, and he obviously makes the substitution that I think most people were clamoring for. Let's get it straight. Danny Ings, with the best will in the world, and I'm I don't know him, so this is not a personal attack, okay? I don't know the guy. He's probably a very nice guy. I'm sure that when he came to West Ham, he was told certain little bits and pieces that were going to sort of, made him sort of go, that's the place I want to go. And it hasn't worked. He's a piece of the jigsaw that fundamentally doesn't fit. Now, I'm sure he could go to another club, whether it's a Premier League club, whether it's a sort of top-end championship club. I'm sure he'd go there and he'd shine. It just isn't happening here, okay? Not a personal attack, not a vendetta against Danny Ings, as I say, but fundamentally, he doesn't work in West Ham's preferred lineup, in the style of football that we play, and it's a two-way thing. We don't work for him, he doesn't work for us. Real simple, nothing personal. Thanks very much, Danny Ings, but I think for the sake of your career and the fact that we're giving you 125k a week, I just think that we need to cut our losses and get him the fuck out of the door in January. As I say, not being personal, it's as much for him as it is for anything else. But substitutions made, wouldn't you know it, Divine Mubama makes an entrance. Now, I thought personally, now look, you could turn around and say, well, did he offer that much more than Danny Ings? I think he did, personally. I think that the one thing that you will get with Divine Mubama, and I've said this about any youth team player that comes through, is that they will have an emotional attachment, they will have a buy-in, and they will just try that little bit harder than a player that you've bought from overseas. That's just the way it is, because I think there's that sort of connection. Do you know what I mean? He was sort of like, he was closing down, he was hassling, he was harassing. Look, did he sort of like make much in the way of shots and headers and this, that, and the other? No, he didn't. But you know what? He was given a very limited amount of time. He was coming into a situation where we was 1-0 down. We was chasing the game. What do you expect him to be? Do you expect him to come on and be prime fucking Erling Haaland? Of course he isn't. He's a kid. He's still learning his trade. He scored lots of goals in youth grade football. When I've seen him in the first team, although they've been fleeting glances, he's looked decent. We need to give him more time, Mr. Moyes. We need to start him, for fuck's sake. Stop fucking bringing him on when we're chasing the game. Give him an opportunity from the start. So there you go. That's my little rant out of the way on Divine Mubama. But I think he needs to be given a real opportunity between now and basically when the transfer window opens. Because I think that it's fairly obvious now we need a striker, especially with Antonio out. We've got Bowen out. We believe he's going to be back, but we don't know. So I think it's imperative we get a striker in January. However, having said that, in the meantime, I think we need to put Divine Mubama front and centre in the starting lineup. Now, if he manages to grab his opportunity and if he manages to really sort of get goals, assists, performances, and really start to look like he's really sort of getting to grips with Premier League football, then for me, actually, we might not have to go into the transfer market because we might have the answer right here under our very noses. The Academy of Football, remember that? There it is. It's done its job. Let's hope that David Moyes realises what he's got at his disposal, shall we? I'm just going to move on. I can see your comments going in, guys. Plough in. 86th minute. What do you know? It's given us an own goal from Dara O'Shea. Now, I think most people thought it was Divine Mubama's goal. He wheeled away, cupping his ear, sort of like, and he wasn't doing it like Sam Allardyce was doing it. He was sort of like, he was drinking in the cheers of the away fans. It was given to Dara O'Shea. It was a cross from Kudus. Mubama gets across to the sort of like the near post. He gets a touch on the ball, but the final touch is said to be Dara O'Shea. I actually think it's really harsh. I actually think that Mubama should get that goal. Let's be completely honest. Dara O'Shea don't want that fucking goal. So Mubama wants it. It was his movement. It was his touch that influenced, Dara O'Shea and his sort of like reaction to the ball. That give it to Mubama for fuck's sake. I mean, like I say, Dara O'Shea don't want it. Mubama does. Fucking give it to the kid for Christ's sake. So it was a bit like the goal at FCSB. It's ridiculous. But anyway, it was an equaliser. And to be honest, at that point, I was sitting there thinking, Moyes has shithoused his way to a point. He's somehow managed to fluke it out, and he's going to come away with a point, which I'd have still been disappointed about, to be honest with you. But, from 1-0 down with 4 minutes to go till the referee's sort of like looking at his watch and sort of thinking, right, how much at a time am I going to put on? I'd have probably sort of turned around and gone, okay, fair enough. So, and like I say, we'd have got away with that. But, we end up sort of getting to the 91st minute, and Kudus, he's on the right again. He's come alive. He gets a ball in. He puts it to the back stick this time. And who's sitting there waiting for it to drop? It's Thomas Souček. He gets a volley away. Trafford had not really much chance. Once he makes the connection, it was powerful. It was on target. And it was only going to end up in a goal. And Thomas Souček wheels away. He's the hero for a second Premier League fixture in succession. He scored a goal in the dying embers of a match to snatch victory from the jaws of defeat. Both games against Forest and against Burnley, we've been chasing the game. And the final few minutes, this guy's popped up. He's been much maligned, and I've been a critic of his, I'll be perfectly honest with you. And look, he's got his attributes and he's got his deficiencies. He's not Kevin De Bruyne. He's not going to be spraying 30, 40-yard balls around. But do you know what? He can get on the end of things. His movement into the box. He's a battering ram. He's a pain in the arse for opposition defenders. And he scores goals. And he's done it again. And he's responsible now for us getting our last 6 points in the Premier League. Now, whatever you want to say about his crap pass percentages, and I've said much about it, as far as scoring goals is concerned, and certain other things. Look, he's very proficient at blocks, at tackles, at aerial duels, and all the rest of it. So you've got to give him credit there, and he's obviously got the goal. We've put ourselves 2-1 to the good with the game ticking away. You look to the stands and you see hordes of Burnley fans that are just sort of like giving up. They know that their goose is cooked, and they're fucking off and going home to drink a pint of mild and clean out the pigeon loft. But that was that. So we end up getting the 3 points. Now, if I sort of move on and give you my general thoughts on our performance in the second half, I'd say it was better than the first, but not significantly. And I wouldn't say that our performance in the first half was much to write home about either. So, it's really not saying much. But I think that when you're away from home and you're 1-0 down, and yes, okay, we were 1-0 down against the team that, again, I don't mean to be disparaging towards Burnley, but let's be honest, they are where they are and we are where we are. And our expectation should be to go there and blow them away. And we didn't blow them away, but we managed to get the sort of like the right side of it when the referee's whistle went. So I'm like, yeah, okay, fine, whatever. It wasn't great, it wasn't fantastic, but we'll move on and we fight another day. We've obviously got Crystal Palace coming down the track. We got a couple of London derbies in succession, and then, like I say, December is going to be tough. December is going to be a tough month. Now, if I move on to my man of the match, I refuse to call it player of the match here. I'm not politically correct. It's men's football. It's women's football. It's a man of the match. It's a woman of the match. Done. All this player of the match bullshit, I'm not buying into it. So my man of the match, it's that guy there. It's Mohamed Kudus. Now, look there at some of his stats. And it's probably the two goals that make me sort of go, that's the guy that needs to get it. This is just my opinion. Mohamed Kudus had 53 touches of the ball. One of them was unsuccessful. He had one shot. It wasn't on target, unfortunately, but he got one assist. I actually think that Mubama, if you're not going to give Mubama the goal, then you've got to give him the assist, but it doesn't even go down as an assist, apparently, which, again, I think is complete bullshit, but there you go. He made 27 passes, did Kudus. He made 2 of them were key passes. So I'm guessing that the own goal for Dara O'Shea must go down as a key pass for Kudus. That must be one of them. His pass accuracy was 77.8%, which for a winger ain't too shabby. He made 5 dribbles, 2 crosses. Both of them were accurate. He made 1 long ball. That was also accurate. He didn't play any through balls. He had 1 aerial that he won. 2 fouls. He was fouled twice. He was offside, not at all. Dispossessed 5 times. That's possibly the one thing that I look at and go, that probably needs a little bit of work. But he made 5 tackles, didn't make any interceptions, clearances, or block any shots, and he committed 3 fouls. And as I say, I think that he was key to the 2 goals that we scored, that we turned the game from a defeat into a victory. So there you go. And that there is the Premier League table at the conclusion of the match. I've not focusing on Burnley at this point. As far as I'm concerned, they're done. They're exiting stage left. But there we are. We're still in 9th. But obviously, with sort of like the way the results went yesterday, we're looking sort of a little bit better. I mean, look, let's put it this way. I'm a West Ham fan of old. We're halfway towards survival, 20 points. So that's halfway towards the magical 40 points, isn't it? 13 games in. So by that logic, if we're going to carry on like that, we're safe from relegation after 26 games, right? I know it doesn't work like that, but it's just sort of like theoretically, do you know what I mean? But there we are. We're 9th place, 13 games, 6 wins, 2 draws, 5 defeats, 23 scored, 23 conceded. Goal difference is 0. 20 points. We've won our last 2 Premier League games. We've got Palace to come, who find themselves in 13th, and they're not in great form. When you look at that, they've lost 4 of their last 5 Premier League games. They've had 1 win in that sequence. So we'll get into that in the Palace preview. But I look at that and think, again, I know that, Palace obviously pulled our trousers down at London Stadium last season, just before the World Cup. But I think we go into this one with a little bit of positivity, hopefully. But that's pretty much it. I mean, as far as the star men for each team, as I say, I've covered off Mohamed Kudus. He was our star man. For me, I'm going to say that Koleosho, for me, stood out for Burnley. And I'll be perfectly honest with you. I'll say it here and now. I personally think if Burnley go down, and I think that the money is probably on that they're going to go down, I'd be in for this kid. I seriously would. I mean, look, what's his position? He played on the left for Burnley, right? He played on their left. What's our problem position? Our problem position is on the left flank. He's got pace. He's direct. He's fearless. And he's actually quite good at winning penalties, as we found out yesterday. Yes, there was one that he didn't win, but there was another one that he did. So, like I say, he's tricky. He's bright. He's incisive. I'd be in for him in the summer. If Burnley go down, I'd be looking at that Collier show and I'd be trying to make a play for him to come in. But you know, that's where I'm at with it. Do I think that the final score was a fair reflection on the match? I'll be brutally honest. No, I don't. I think we shithoused it. I think we were very, very fortunate, and I think we were lucky to get away with it. But you know, you don't always get what you deserve in life. Sometimes, let's be honest, there's been many times where West Ham have deserved to win. There's been many times where we've kicked the shit out of the opposition and got absolutely fuck all for it. So when it's the boots on the other foot, I'm not going to cry too much about it, but given that where Burnley are where they are, it is a little bit concerning, I can't lie. But as I've always said, winning's a habit, so's losing. We was on a losing sequence, and I said that is a bit concerning. We've now managed to put 2 consecutive Premier League games. If you include the game against Olympiacos, that's 3 games in succession where we've gone win, win, win. Now, hopefully, we're starting to hit our straps. Now, hopefully, we're going to see a little bit more of a momentum shift, hopefully in a positive direction. I'm just going to really quickly rattle through and just see what you guys have been saying. I do need to get a little bit of a move on, so I'm just going to pick some very select comments. Joan, hope you're well. Did you hear Moyes say post-match saying Obama's only 19 and needs time? Yes, you need to fucking play him, Mr. Moyes. You are the one that picks him. Fucking idiot. Hope you're well, Joan. Souček back to his best. Yeah, he's scoring goals. Like I say, he's not Kevin De Bruyne. He's not going to spray 30, 40-yard passes around and slot it through the eye of a needle. That isn't the way it goes. Souček scoring at least, looking dangerous in the box. He's sloppy in midfield sometime, and I am doing absolutely fine. Thanks for coming along. Who else we got? I'm okay for Souček to play awful every game, but win us matches. Yeah, exactly. You know, if he, I'm not really too bothered. If he's going to pop up and score last-minute winners where the opposition have got fuck all time to respond, I'm all for it. Souček is a limited player, but what he does well, and he's in the goal, so deserves his start. Would drop JWP if anyone at the moment. Ooh, but then set pieces, sort of like we need both parts of them working, don't we? You know, we need someone taking the set piece, and obviously getting Souček on the end of it would be key. So I'm not quite sure I go along with that, Adrian, but I can understand your thought process. Wolf says, I agree, Gates. He loved the guy. People were saying he hasn't been good the last few matches, but he's been forced to play more defensive. Everyone was below average today, but this guy won us the game. He did indeed. Halfway to safety, no way. We're about 3 wins away from safety. As I say, I'm being a little bit tongue in cheek with the comment. I don't think that we're going to need 40 points to be safe this season, because I think the bottom 3 are going to be quite low. Probably about 26, 27 points are probably going to be enough, if I'm being honest. Just having a little look. Budgie, hope you're well, mate. Don't worry about it. Not a problem. Not a problem. He is, Daniel. He is absolutely a baller, and we're very lucky to have him, mate. He's made a real impact. And when I heard he possibly was going to have an injury coming back from the international break, I was like, no, please don't. But I was glad to see at 2 o'clock that he was on the team sheet, and boy, did he play a big part in getting us the 3 points. But anyway, guys, I'm going to knock it on the head there. I really do thank you very much indeed for your company. The only thing I'd like to ask you guys to do, as I always do, please don't forget to like, comment on, and share this stream to your social media platforms. Subscribe to our YouTube channel if you haven't done so already. Hit the notification bell and click all for alerts on new content. And as always, ladies and gentlemen, we thank you very much indeed for your support in this particular matter. I'm going to clear off because I've got to go to my daughter's football game. We've got to get some food for the dog. There's various other bits and pieces that I've got to get involved in. That's why I brought it forward from 6 o'clock to, it's just one of those days. It's one of those days. But do thank you very much for bearing with us, supporting us, and all the rest of it. Don't forget, come on, you Irons. Don't forget to support the Iron Supporting Food Banks charity, and we will see you next time. Take care.
The West Ham Massive are pleased to support Iron Supporting Food Banks. They are a group of West Ham fans and friends inspired by the work of other football food banks around the country. They collect food and cash donations for a Newham Food Bank in Beckton, who supplies sub-distribution centres in the borough 7 days a week and hand out several hundred 3-day emergency food packs every month to families in need. They are also working with other groups to improve conditions for vulnerable adults and children in the Newham community. You can help by making a donation to their Just Giving page. You will find the link to this in the description section of the video details in this stream. Thanks for your support. Come on, you Irons.